this. It's been actually kind of a fun exercise and to go through, and the teachers are coming in all day in my office, and just when something is visualized, it helps you to make sense of the data a little bit more, and seeing that they kind of look like popsicles to me, but when you see these things, it kind of helps you to see like, these are our first graders, and you know, this is kind of, in talking to our K1 teachers, this is kind of normal. That kids are going to be at all sorts of different levels. That, you know, we do have these standards for where kids should be, but some kids just, they're not developmentally there yet. But as they move along, we still keep our high standards, and we want them to be making those marks. And some those kids will be making jumps, and if they're not, then they need that support.
Is there any kind of assistance or any extra support any of these kids can access, or parents can access for them in the summer, in terms of reading support, or do we, provide any guidelines to parents? But is there any other support? I mean, there's nothing government funded or anything that they can access for extra support in the summer, is there?
There's nothing government funded, but I know the teachers at the report cards at the end of the year, they always provides recommendations and support for what to do over the summer for kids. They've done it for my kids. I know that some parents go to tutoring. One of the best things parents can do is just read to it with their kids.
Right.
We usually have a librarian come in and talk about summer reading program, which encourages them to keep reading. And I always tell my students, the ones who read all summer are likely to gain a level just from reading, and if they don't, they sometimes lose a level. It's pretty common actually for kids who just don't read all summer to go backwards.
Tori's been doing work. We want to talk about what we've been doing with our parents of English language learners.
Yeah, so I started a monthly meeting with them, where the first one I did with Marilyn came as well to translate if need be. We were at the Children's Center, and I come with the overall goal is to inform them about what's going on, so I'll usually, it's like to inform them, to help encourage their questions about what they might be wondering about, and then also I always teach a little something, about what they can do at home. And so, we had about, I guess there were about 14 the first one, maybe 12, 14, and then I just had one last week, and there were 8 who were here, and I'm gonna do it again at the beginning of June, and I told them it's gonna be about summer. It's gonna be about ideas for summer. And I also, last year, we had it on the calendar, but then the end of the year is so hard to do an evening. I'd love to do it, one in addition to the ELs, one for the rest of the, but it's just so hard to figure out a day to do that. But I have a document, like maybe 6 pages of ideas for things to do in the summer that, we can put in the news, or say in the newsletter that we'll have them, or we can, Marilyn translating it, so.
And just if the kids go to the Children's Center in the summer, is the Children's Center open to, suggestions like to read more, this more, or anything to?
I actually, I went at the beginning of the summer last year, because I have a little bit more breathing room in my world in the summer, and so, to offer that to volunteer there.
Wonderful.
And so I went about 4 times, and it was, it's a little tricky, I found, maybe the second summer it'll be less tricky to, kind of infusing into the program. So what I ended up doing was, I would just come with my stuff on wheels and, set up on a table in the yard, and it would be one of the things in the afternoon. And, the great thing was that a number of our new students this fall then recognized me when I was here. That was another one of my ulterior motives, was because I think it was in the spring, that was right when one of the many things on the street was the talk about something with the center and charter, and so I guess I just wanted to be a bridge.
Mhm.
And also see what kind of, additional support or, so I think just the more connection we have, I mean, Marilyn is great. She actually didn't come to our the second meeting, because she has a class that night, so she had to miss it the first time. And it went great. I was using some of my Spanish. Trying to,
So
but
they
they were,
don't-
you know, I just spoke really slowly and they were,
Yeah.
you know, and there's
Yeah.
some parents that speak, fairly good English.
Okay.
And that you all ask them to help.
Yeah, and so, but they don't, is part of like the whole summer, like they don't just regularly read to the kids and that kind of stuff then?
It's
Or-
culturally not a norm. Marilyn has taught me, and it's not, I mean, we have plenty of American families don't do it as a matter of course, but it culturally, at least in our area, it's a, you at least say you do it. I mean, it's a, and it's just it's a big cultural difference, you know, that education is for, you know, the teachers.
Yeah,
And
but
so,
being read to is like just fun, it's, forget the
Right.
education part,
and
it's
so what
just
I've been
like
telling them, I said,
treat,
I don't,
right?
it doesn't matter what language you read to them in,
Yeah,
you know, and the same thing, I was doing some ideas around writing this time, and so I gave them all a Post-it. I said, okay, write something on the Post-it that you want for your child, that you want them to know, you know, something from your heart. And now, you can go home, put that in a lunchbox, or put it, you know, under the pillow, or, you know, and just, you know, you can just bring writing into living.
And it was great strategies for everyone.
Well,
yeah,
right, but
Oh, yeah.
because of, you know, I mean, I'm trying to make the connection with, I mean, that's on my list for everybody. And to have learning be infused into living and not just send them to school to learn, you know, that it's
Right.
something that's
And
potentially
I
able to be
I
happening.
appreciate what she's doing, it's just anecdotally, there have been a couple of parents who've gone to these evenings, and I was thinking of one dad in particular, who I just came into school last week, and we were walking opposite directions, he just dropped his daughter off, and he's like, he started yelling and he waited, it's like, stop, like, what's going on? He's like, I am so happy, like his daughter's just, you know, first grader, she's just starting to read, and his daughter's so excited, and that she's teaching him to read in English, and he's teaching her to read in Spanish, and they're reading together. He bought her a chalkboard, and she's doing the letters and sounds at home, and it's just like, he was just going on and on and on and on and on, and how excited he was.
And that's actually a
And
great
he's gone to
example,
both
because
of them.
that first grader registers as below grade level. However, she, in the last, like, 3 months, has just gone from us needing to cajole her into, you know, looking at letters and books, you know, to being all charged up, but you can't you know, there's no measure
Right.
that we can put
Right.
up there.
And she's
that
teaching
shows
her
that.
own centers.
Yes.
But you gotta
Yes,
get there
she-
before you
she's
make the
doing-
progress in the
She ran a
reading.
center the other day.
yeah,
And was very excited.
Okay.
So, yeah, so there's a lot of, beyond just what you see, there's
Yeah.
even
You know,
more
you
layers.
you can
Yeah.
lose that in something like this,
Yeah.
this
right,
Totally, we had a
Right.
situation about 2 weeks ago, I think, where I guess she's a kindergartner. She was TK last year, so kindergartner came in the middle of my math class and said, I would like to share something with your class. I went, okay. There we were sitting on the rug, okay, go for it. And she had done this whole report on the Titanic. She had written it all out. And she, paper by paper, read her thing, put it on the floor. Read the next thing, put it on the floor. Okay, any questions? And this is a little pipsqueak of a kid. And I had all the fourth graders from math, they were just so totally respectful and thank you, and some of them asked some questions and said, oh, I read a book about that, and, you know, it was the cutest thing. And like you said, you can't measure that,
Yeah.
but her confidence and her, you know, feeling of empowerment over like, I can read, I can write, and I can share that, and she was so proud of herself.
And that's just part of the culture we try to have.
Yeah.
And just the fact that her teacher just held that so high for her, and then for the other students to see that, all the other kids in class are like, I'm gonna write a report and I'm gonna go present it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that expectation of who we are and how, what we value.
And the same with buddies, you know, we read with buddies pretty regularly. And, you know, in the beginning of the year, it was all the big kids reading to the little kids, and now we're having the little kids read to the big kids. And the big kids are so proud of their little buddies. They take such pride in like, she read that whole book, you know, it's really neat. Yeah, it's good stuff.
If I could just tag on to Sonia's comment, I do think that, the summer is such a make or break time, and particularly for kids who are behind. And I wonder if we could just do like offline, you know, more thinking about what else we could do in the summer to help parents and students just get excited about coming to the library more, like, and I'm thinking like, you know, the new site at St. Rita's, it's just literally right across the street from the library.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder, and, you know, if we're in there in the summer, like, I wonder if we could have a meetup, you know, with maybe a couple parent volunteers, or Tori and others, who, it's like, you know, once a week, we're doing like a library hour,
Yeah.
and like a book chat, or something like that.
Mhm.
Just something to keep the kids,
Yeah.
like, going to the library, checking out books, and bringing them home with their parents.
That's been on my mind as well, just the thought of, because when here, we basically get kicked out right away and we're
Yeah.
out all summer long.
Yeah,
And
but we'll
then,
have the site.
but then we can
Yeah.
use it and
Yeah.
just
We're paying
have,
for it, we might as well use it.
Yeah.
have things over the summer and have just like little meetups and
Yeah,
like a little book club or.
yeah.
Well, I think if you can get, because I'm really shocked actually to hear that they just view reading books as learning, and I guess it is, but like, for me, reading has always been such a pleasure, almost like a guilty pleasure or something, like I've never thought about it as just learning, because it is just like, you know, one of life's greatest pleasures. And so how do you change that perspective so that these kids don't wanna read just because you're supposed to read, but because, oh, this book is so good, I can't wait to go read it, and, you know, I wanna read it at night and and at flashlight and stuff, and how do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't
One of
know.
the, we've been doing with the English language kids, I've also been doing a borrow a book program,
Okay.
you know, and that, you know, slowly getting all of them, the younger kids, you know, where they take it home in a plastic bag, and then they, you know, then they bring it back, you know, so it, 'cause, you know, we don't really know what kind of book availability they have
Right,
in the
right.
home,
But
and I think a lot of them, you know, and when the parent meeting, you know, I was reminding them, we have all these books that are available,
Yeah,
you
the
know, in
free book
hallway,
library.
Yeah.
free books. And so that's been great actually, and they've been, I mean, and these little kids have been really
But
good
it'd be
about,
great,
I've
like,
only lost a few.
If at the beginning of the summer, like, could meet at the library, and then could all sign up for library cards. And then they could go get 10 books every week from the library.
We'll be
if they
using
wanted.
that library all the
You know what I
time.
mean?
Yeah,
But
we
that whole, that
definitely
library
have.
reading, that summer reading program is pretty cool. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know what it is now, my kids are a lot older, but that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Doing that and then going in every week and getting books, and so I wonder if that's something we could start with them, you know,
Prizes,
somehow
right?
meet the parents and then help them like get library cards
Yeah.
and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If that would then sort of set it up.
Tori's writing it down, so
I'll
it's
make
gonna
sure
happen.
we.
Well, I love the borrow a book thing, cause it's a really specific, just like, here's one book, this is yours for a week, like, just, that's the one thing. Just
I just remember meeting with you in yours and Sarah's,
Closet.
Refrigerator,
say no.
refrigerator room.
and then all of a sudden there's like this little book pops up in the window. And the second grader's like returning the book. But it's so happy to
Yeah,
have had that experience and that connection with you.
yeah,
I
The
just
library
remember,
used to offer prizes and incentives to the kids,
Oh, yeah.
They still do.
Yeah, I mean, they must still have
and that
some.
really helps. And also, I wonder about the EL and the folks that are below it. Do you test them in their own language at all? I mean, are they just below for reading English and possibly in their own language they're out? or-
No, they're not, the younger ones are not literate in English. Actually, for
I'm
ELs.
thinking more the fifth graders, for example. It's
Oh,
like there's
yeah.
a bunch of reds over there, but do you ever test them or do anything in their own language? Because they might be read in English, but they might actually read stuff in
No, we don't, but that'd be great if we had the resources to do
Yeah.
it.
can I just raise one other thing I wanna put on the table, cause I think we all need to just figure out how to get more progress out of the time and resources that we have, and all of our fabulous, people. And I think that the early care that we provide on site is a real, like, low-hanging fruit. And Luke and I have talked about ideas for this before, but, there are, 8 to 10 kids who are there probably every day. And early morning is a good time to work with
Yeah.
kids on academics.
Have you tried beating them?
And, and, and it's a lot of, our low-income students. So it just seems to me like just a natural, that, it doesn't have to be all academic, but if we could take some portion of that morning time and have like a tutor or, or tutor who's available regularly, or just like a whole group reading thing that happens periodically.
There's even volunteers, just having
Yeah,
grandparents and
book
stuff.
buddies, or
Like James had something.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I was curious, cause you're allowed to use the library here, but you can't check out books, correct?
Yes.
So, at St. Rita's, are you gonna have a library, or would you be able to go over, cause you're really close to the
Yeah,
library?
we'd just be walking across the street to the public library.
Cause my daughter, she goes on Wednesdays, she comes back with books and,
Yeah.
what you're talking about, but then she, of course, cause she has access to the library, so, yeah, I mean, and it's really important, I mean, I get what you guys are saying.
Yeah, they've done that with Cascade Canyon, it was a regular thing.
I mean,
So
I
the
assume it's in all
library's
the schools other than
really open.
what the situation is here, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really good idea, in the morning, and even if they're just being read to, right, if they're never being read to, I mean, that doesn't have, that can be just a treat that they get.
Yeah.
And that's something we could set up with parent volunteers. I mean, I know we're always asking for volunteers, but it could be that some parents would be excited to just go and read with one or two kids each morning.
We're actually doing that early, like at the beginning of the school day. I don't know, Tim is, I don't know who's kind of like heading that up, but often I will see parents just out in the hallways reading with kids.
And it's something that we could reach out to the broader community
Yes.
about more often. I mean, there are programs like the Marin County School volunteers
Right.
that, we haven't really tapped into, or retired people in the community.
Yeah, we're gonna be
who
right next to the
probably
Bennett House.
Love to come and read.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So I think we should look into more opportunities like that.
Totally, and one other moment that we have is in the after-school period. I know, not all of our low-income kids can stay, but it could be that we could like have a homework club next year, or some way to have kids opt in, no matter what their grade level or, proficiency level is, just have it be like a supportive space for kids to come and work on their stuff.
I didn't know that our after-school program has done it if a parent has asked, or if a teacher has asked to follow up with a kid on their homework or reading, they do that. It's not a structured program per se.
Yeah.
But, so there's a lot more that we can do, we just need to spend the time planning, I think.
Yes.
Okay, is there any more, public comment on this item? Okay, so I will move us along to our next presentation, which is a proposal for English Language Arts Professional Development.
So it's good that it follows up our last presentation, but I just wanna, the outcome is not gonna be as as expected. As a school, we see many needs as far as how to meet the needs of kids who need support around reading in particular. There are differing views nationally and locally and within our school about how to meet those needs. Really one thing that I've been looking for is there's been great value in having our partnership with the new school and how they've come and helped support us with our inquiry-based learning. Just having somebody who has knowledge and experience, Shanice from New School she's been doing this for many years, she comes from the lab school at UCLA, she's just I couldn't think of a better person to be coming in, and she saw what we were doing, worked with the teachers, got the context of the school, and helped us go from our strengths to build upon that. So one thing that I would like is to have something like that, particularly around English language arts for somebody. It could be somebody local. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody from the outside coming in. But to really just help us come together with their knowledge and experience to see what it is that we do, what we do well, and how to fill the gaps. So this contract is basically put forth last week, and what's come in that past week in talking to the classroom teachers is that this doesn't make sense for them as far as the approach coming from this organization. There are components and parts to it that they agree to, and I think Tori and Chris would be great to hear their voices here. Chris being the teacher representative, and Tori who supports our teachers and our students around, learning the English language. That, their input here is really important. And in hearing Tori's input, Chris's input, I talked to Tim a long time today. I talked to Erica and Emily for an hour and a half after school today. That everybody wants this. Nobody does not want to have somebody come and evaluate our program and see what we're doing and help us to create a common language and a common approach of how we do things. But from reviewing the materials for this contract and seeing the lens that this group will be coming in with, they don't feel like this is the right group to be doing this, and I'm gonna kind of hand it over to Chris to see if she can kind of fill in the gaps of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess for me it's sort of about the process. It's interesting you mentioned new school and the whole inquiry. When we talked about inquiry, it was a long process of building up to a decision. We talked about, hey, we've got this project-based thing that we do, but how can we further define it? How can we improve on it? And so inquiry was mentioned. We went to, several of us visited new school. We talked with Shernice. They came here. We talked to them more. We looked online. We found videos and we talked about it, over several months, I would say, until we finally went, yeah, actually this is something we're really committed to, and we really want to go ahead with this. And so it was this long process of really getting everybody to feel interested and engaged and committed to it. And it's been great. It's been incredible. I think with this reading thing, it sort of felt like it came really suddenly and sort of, all of this didn't happen, that happened. It was like the end of the process. And so I think as we started looking, and when I first saw the proposal on Saturday, I think was the first time I saw it, and I looked at it, I was like, that wasn't exactly what I had in mind. I'm not sure about this, and Luke and I were kind of emailing over the weekend, and then I said, Tori, would you look at this? What do you think on this? Is this just me, and is this really a K2 kind of a problem, because it's or situation, because it's phonics and phonemic awareness and things, it's like foundational reading skills is what it was focused on. And as I read through it, I looked at it, and they had these modules where they had slideshows, presentations kind of thing, and I was like, I don't know, this doesn't really feel right. I think we definitely need to do something and be more cohesive and communicate better, but this particular program just didn't feel right. And then some of the other teachers we looked at, we haven't really talked about it again as a staff, we talked about it Wednesday afternoon briefly, but I just sort of feels like we need more of a process. We need to go, what are we doing really well? Where do we need help? What kids is it? Are we really focusing on EL kids, or is it all kids, or like what are we really, we just need more time, I think. And it may wind up in the end, maybe we do really hire people like this, or these people, or somebody else, but from my perspective, we just need more time to process it before we're ready to commit to a contract.
There's also that experience of, I was a teacher, and I've been on the other side of things, when somebody comes along and says, "Here, I found something for you." And I go, "Well, yes, I was looking for something, but that's not what I was looking for, or I wasn't part of the process." And it doesn't feel good, especially when it's your classroom, your kids, what you're doing day in, day out, and if you're not bought into it and you're not part of the process, oftentimes, this is kind of one of the reasons why I went into administration, because I was tired of that. And I don't want this to happen to our teachers again, primarily because I want our kids to be getting something that works and is meaningful and that everybody's bought into. And if people feel like something's been forced down their throats, then
I don't tend to implement it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it won't be as effective. I do think, I mean, this has nudged us to really like make this a priority, and I could see by our next board meeting, we could come back and say, okay, this is what we're thinking, this is, I feel like,
Well, that was gonna
We
be
do
my
need to have
question,
this
so what,
conversation.
cause it was good, it was perfect, cause we had,
Yeah.
you had all of this, and we could say, okay, there is, so, my question then is like, what do you guys wanna do? Like, what do you think?
well, I think we need to have a conversation about it.
Okay,
And I think, we've all been teaching a long time, we've had a lot of trainings and know different people, and Tori's got a lot of resources, and I think that we need to have a conversation, figure out like what makes sense. We need to look at the research and what is proven to work. We need to look at what we already do, what do we do well, where do we need bolstering. Some of it is just articulating amongst the teachers, how are you doing this, and how am I, what happens when they go from, first grade to second grade, so I just think we need to start with the process of the conversation, and then I think it's gonna become clear.
a good unintended consequence of this is that the teachers are really talking.
yeah.
Like all weekend long, I'm getting text messages and phone calls. And, in my office, it's in my office today, but it's just like the things Tim was just saying to me, an hour ago in the hallway.
Yeah.
It's like, it's created a great conversation point.
Right,
That's kind of what I wanted,
right, I mean, it's perfect.
yeah,
that-
but didn't come out the way I expected it to.
But you also, and it's, cause you have the kids who are way advanced in their reading, you have kids who are maybe English language learners, you have kids who have learning disabilities around reading, and so you have to be able to meet all of them and without excluding any one group, which
Sorry.
is really hard, because some of those kids who are having difficulties are gonna need some things that those ones who are just flying and reading don't, and so, I mean.
Well, at the same time,
Yeah.
I and others have a sense of urgency around this.
No, I think
Yeah.
I think it really is, because, I mean, we saw that there's a good chunk of these kids. No, but I'm just saying I can respect the challenge, because we have this big spread.
Yeah, like, we really need to be coming back to the next board
We
meeting
need-
with a plan.
Well, because we need to be starting in
Yeah.
August with something in place.
Yeah, and I think we all agree to that.
And here's the one urgency piece is for whoever you wanna work with, for them to see classrooms. It'd be far better for them to be able to see classrooms now,
Yeah,
and then begin working with you all over the summer, and be heading into the fall with like some things you all are trying, rather than not be able to observe classrooms until sometime in the fall,
Yeah.
which means you just lose so much
and
impact.
this is something that we should have started earlier in the
I
year.
was just gonna say, a couple months ago, this would've been great, right?
And then what this came out to is they were coming on the second to last Wednesday of the school year,
Yeah.
which they're not gonna be getting good data from, it's a week before school's out. And so it was something that should have been done earlier, and then it became rushed.
But so, what's your thinking then, is it just, cause I understand and agree with the idea that it should be more collaboratively designed.
Yeah.
But then, how can we do that on a timely basis?
I think that we have to rethink, we have to be intentional about what the approach could be, rather than what this approach was going to be. That if we don't have the opportunity for somebody to come in and observe, like Shanice really never observed. But if we find somebody who's aligned with these teachers and who they are, then we don't necessarily need that. We can find somebody who can help come in, and also at the same time recognizing that we have great resources here that we could be utilizing better and more often. That, you know, it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody, I mean, you and I have talked about this for a little while, and I like the idea of coming and having a quote-unquote audit, even though that kind of sounds scary to people, but of seeing what our program is like. I, in the past week, have learned that we are critical people, and we can be critical of ourselves, and we can work towards auditing to a degree ourselves, while bringing somebody else with that and a different lens who can help push us along in the next year.
And I was gonna say, even over the summer, if we can identify someone, you know, before the fall, you know, sometime either end of the school year or during the summer, I'm sure that we could get together with, you know, we could get small clusters of people together with that
And
person
work
in the
with them.
summer. Talk about this is what we do for this, and this is how we've
Right.
been doing that, and this is an area where we feel like we need some help, and I think that can happen during the summer.
And then you start kind of with a refined process or whatever,
Yeah,
and then they can always come in at that point
right.
and work. Cause I agree too, I think I'd like to hear, I guess, that we'll be starting with a more fine-tuned or more, similar process across the board that addresses, you know, this specifically, cause, and you know, and it's too bad we didn't push it, I guess, you know, 3 months earlier either, right, that, you know, so I'm sorry, we're sort of pushing it so.
But I didn't give that presentation 3 months ago.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, but we didn't push for it and say,
Yeah.
Luke, you gotta do this 3 months ago either, so it's, you know,
Well, yeah, we're all
I mean,
accountable.
we've had, you know, there's been a lot going on,
Yeah.
but I think it would be great if, at least a draft of something could start in the fall, and then,
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Well, if I
Okay.
could just put like a finer point on it, so if we don't wanna jump into this right now because it does feel too rushed, then I would hope that the teaching team would be willing to put in extra energy into it this summer to really get it off the ground, like that's the question. Like if we're not gonna just go for this because it's available and maybe it's 80% of, you know, what we need, but not really perfect, that's one way of handling it, to just get it kicked off. But if we wanted to look and feel better, it seems like it will take more time and energy then, and I just hope that the teaching team will be up for that, because I think we'll need that. If we're gonna slow down the process of choosing somebody, then a lot has to happen during the summer.
It's gonna be a busy summer.
Yeah.
Just, you know, being realistic,
Yeah.
we're gonna be packing up and moving and resetting up and all of that. But I do think that, you know, I think